Hello and welcome to Wedding Venue's official YouTube channel. Glad you're here. Today we're talking about, can you host a wedding for $10,000 or less in 2026 and going into 2027 and even 2028 when we get there. Glad you're here. Welcome. My name's Carson Bruce. I'm a wedding DJ and videographer. I've been DJing for over 12 years now, DJing weddings for over 10 years. And excited to really talk about some money, some budgeting things today. Really, this video is a reaction video to some comments that we've gotten online when it comes to budgeting for your own wedding. So we had a budgeting video with professional planner and florist Angel Phillips and professional DJ Chad Ellis of Ellis Entertainment. You guys definitely need to check that video out on how to actually budget for your wedding. It's an hour and 48 minutes long. If you have the time, go for it. But in that video, we did talk about the average cost of weddings. And when we shared a little clip on Instagram and TikTok, people did not agree. They were shocked with the expense of weddings. And so today's video is just, is it possible to actually host a wedding for $10,000 or less? Now, if you're on YouTube and you have an account, say hello in the comments. Say hello to my cats. This is Nisbet. This is Nash behind me. And they're my guest stars today. My featured guests today. So they're chilling. I don't know how long they'll stick around, but anyway, so here we go. So we're talking about budgeting today. People were also just curious where we got these numbers for like the last video we did about budgeting. They were like, I don't know where y'all are getting these numbers. Where a lot of these numbers come from trusted wedding directories like The Knot here on theknot.com, which is The Knot's very highly respected in the wedding industry. So frequently asked questions. This is right from the website. What is a reasonable budget for a wedding? Okay. Reasonable. Wedding costs are different for everyone and vary based on your wedding's location, size, season, and more. The average cost of a wedding in the U.S. ranges from about $17,000 to $55,000, depending on the city or state. Keep in mind the key word here is average, and your wedding may be above or below this based on your personal wedding preferences. All right, so we got these numbers from The Knot because this is kind of like the average number. So in our discussion, when we talked about how to budget for your wedding, we said $10,000 to $60,000. We kind of broadened that a little bit more. Said, okay, let's expect $10,000 to $60,000. That's our buffer, all the way from $10,000 to $60,000. And that is very, very common of what people are spending on weddings. Now, when we said this in the last video, a lot of people commented on the reels and said, no, you can absolutely do this less than $10,000. And okay, that is true. So the question is, can you host a wedding for less than $10,000? The answer is yes. However, it's going to be a lot of work, a ton of work. The famous saying is, if you don't have money, you got to be willing to spend the time. If you don't have time, you got to be willing to spend the money. And that is very true in the wedding industry. If you do have, if you don't have the money, spend the time and effort. If you don't have the time, you got to find somehow to spend the money. So, with that being said, let's get into some of the comments we had online, and I'll just be addressing a lot of these comments today, just to let you guys know, and we'll show these on the screen as well, so you guys can see it and be a part. So definitely follow along on Instagram, TikTok. Hopefully you're subscribing here on YouTube, so we can give you some more advice about weddings here. So one comment, it's so sad how even just having a nice wedding is unattainable for most people now. Got 485 likes just on this comment alone. And what I have to say about that is it's not necessarily sad because, and it's not necessarily unattainable. I think that people just need to have a better expectation going into planning their wedding of what their budget needs to be. And if they have that better expectation, they won't be so sad, right? So we're trying to paint this expectation that weddings are generally speaking $10,000 to $60,000. And so it's not that it's so sad. It's not that the industry is out to get you. It's just that you need to have a realistic expectation. And if you want to, and by the way, weddings are to be able to host a wedding is actually a luxury. There's nothing that's actually needed about a wedding day. You can totally elope. You can go to the courthouse. You can get married for less than $100 legally. You know, you can get all the documentation, do everything you need to do. But it's the beauty of being able to share it with your close friends and family, or a lot of friends and family, if you choose to do that. So there's a misconception that, hey, hiring XYZ, whatever it is, whatever vendor, hiring a videographer is not needed. Hiring a planner is not needed. Paying for an expensive venue is not needed. All these things like that, I don't consider that to hold weight, because really none of this is needed. I mean, you don't even need an amazing wedding dress, right? So I don't think that argument really holds weight here. It's just that people need to have realistic expectations. So can you get married? Can you host a wedding for under $10,000? Yes, we're going to talk about that. This one person said, I had 40 people at my wedding, got Publix, had a morning wedding, bought my dress off the rack, and it was still around $10,000. So this individual, 40 people at the wedding. Let that sink in. Guest count is huge. Ordered from Publix, I guess more wholesale, not a full catering company, and bought the dress off the rack. I guess she didn't have photographer or videographer, didn't have a planner. There's a lot of things she's eliminating here, and it was still around $10,000. Let's read some more. Backyard wedding with only 30 people, and our budget is $7,000. It always adds up quick, even when you DIY and cut corners. So I want y'all to hear that. Only 30 people, it was $7,000, and a lot of DIY, a lot of things to cut corners. Okay, people don't understand fully about backyard weddings. We do have a video about backyard weddings that you guys need to check out on the channel. But a big thing about backyard weddings is, say you have your own backyard or someone else's yard that you like, you might still have to rent restrooms, which could be $1,000. You might still have to rent a generator, or maybe you have a friend or family that has a generator that they can bring. You might have to rent string lights if you want string lighting, or you might have to rent a dance floor, or you might have to rent tents. I mean, if you're having 30 people, it's more manageable. Maybe a smaller tent, maybe $1,000. I don't know. I'm not an expert in how much tents cost, but I have heard that renting tents can be $1,000 to $5,000 depending on your guest count. Depending on how many people you need to fit in under this tent, it can be $1,000 to $5,000 to rent tents. Okay, so that can add up quickly. All right, so someone commented on the reel talking about the average wedding cost. Someone said, nope, not true. Barely over $7,000 for my entire wedding. Just because you can't do it doesn't mean it isn't impossible. And to this person, I will say, okay, that's fair. So this person did it for $7,000, their whole wedding for $7,000. Now, they did not include their guest count. They did not include their vendor breakdown. So a lot of times people will just comment randomly, yeah, we did it for $7,000, but not actually give you the details. The comment prior to this said, we had 30 people and it was $7,000. Well, that explains why it's $7,000, because you're only feeding 30 people and hosting 30 people. So it makes sense that you could do it for $7,000. So if people want to say, no, these averages aren't true, you can do it less than $10,000. It's true, but what we're getting so far, I hope y'all are seeing this, is that it's a low guest count. If you have a low guest count, you can do it cheaper. Now, a general rule that in the wedding industry, based on the Knot and others, is that whatever your guest count is, now this is a generalization, this is not always true, okay? But whatever your guest count is, you just add 2 zeros to it, right? So let's say you have 100 guests that you're inviting, just add 2 zeros to it, it'll be $10,000. Now that's pretty minimal that you would expect to pay, because you need to have a space that hosts them, and you're gonna be feeding them, and you probably have a list of other vendors as well. So generally speaking, now for me personally, 5 years ago, we had 300 people. We invited 300 people. So generally speaking, it should have costed $30,000. But we spent $15,000. We cut some corners when it came to decor and florals. We did some DIY stuff there. We did it on a Friday. We got some friend and family discounts. We did some things and we didn't have a full planning package, full planner taking everything. So anyway, we found some ways to cut some corners, but you know, it's just not, it's not always as what people think. When people were commenting about this, about saying, oh, I can do my wedding for less than $10,000. Well, what's your guest count? Oh, it's 30 people. Well, that explains it, you know, that explains it. The average wedding is around 150 guests. So if you're wanting to invite 150 guests, or, you know, 125 to 200 guests, it's going to cost some money. You know, you'll be expecting, I think the average is around $35,000 is the average for wedding costs right now. So let's keep going on with these comments. Spent around $5,000 total and DIY'd everything myself. We rented an Airbnb for 2 nights and held the reception there. Got married in a national park. That's amazing. We need to make a national park video, which we are going to make. It is possible, just hard. Everyone at the wedding had a wonderful time and raved about how there was an amazing balance of being formal yet feeling comfortable. Lots of people said it was the best wedding they've been to. Highly recommend DIYing if you can. So that was awesome. So I commented, followed up with that. So that's awesome. How many guests did you pay for entertainment? And did you have an open bar? Also, what was your photo and video vendors like? Commented back, it was 85 guests. We paid $300 for a DJ. $300 for a DJ, that's a deal right there. I don't know any professional level DJ that would come DJ for $300. This might have been a friend. This might have been someone who's brand new to weddings. I don't know. But that's very cheap. $800 for a photographer, also very cheap. Again, not, you know, if that's your price, that's your price, but this is probably a beginner photographer at $800, or maybe someone who does this on the side, a hobbyist. This is not a full-time photographer at that $800 rate, for sure not. And then she said, and my in-laws chipped in and helped with getting beer and wine, no bartender or anything, just help yourself to a drink. So anyway, again here, I think she said she did $5,000 total for her wedding, but her guest list was 85. So I think if you're gonna do less than $10,000, if you have a less than $10,000 budget, your guest list needs to be under 100 people. Like that's what I'm seeing here so far. All right, let's keep going. We spent $5,500 total. My only regret is not spending more on a photographer. This is so true. So many people have certain regrets on their wedding days, and sometimes the photographer choosing the wrong one is a big regret for a lot of people. You either like extremely love your photographer and you just can't say enough great things about them, or you regret it and don't recommend them to anyone. So this is definitely so true. So yeah, they spent $5,500 total, but they didn't spend a lot on their photographer and they regretted it. And I followed up asking some more questions to this person. They said that they got married at a local community barn venue for $400. That's very cheap. It had nothing. So it had nothing. It was totally clear. There was nothing there, so they had to decorate everything. It had nothing. I rented tables and chairs for under $800. That's a really good deal. Don't know what kind of tables, don't know what kind of chairs. We don't know what it looks like, but she did it for $800. No dinner, dessert only, s'mores bar and cake. Okay, so she didn't feed everyone. I want you guys to know this. She did it for $5,500 total, but she did not feed everyone, okay? Wedding cake was gifted. DIY flowers, did myself, wholesale, $500. Decor was $400. Dress was the most expensive thing. In this whole $5,500 budget that she had, the dress was the most expensive at $1,300 total. I was fortunate to have a lot of family and friends gift decor, cake, services like DJ. So DJ was free. I'm assuming the music was free. Photographer was $1,500, and that wasn't enough. Family friend, not professional, and regrets it. So she paid her photographer $1,500, which is definitely below the average for a photographer, by the way. And sometimes you can get a $1,500 photographer, and it is great. It works out great. Sometimes you're risking it, you know. So this person said they definitely regretted hiring a $1,500 photographer. Moving on. All right, okay. So this is an interesting comment. Here is an actual budget wedding. You get catering from Chipotle and Chick-fil-A. This will be under $1,000. So they said, well, first of all, they said you get catering from Chipotle and Chick-fil-A. I don't know if I would suggest get catering from both, maybe one or the other, like either Chipotle vibe or the Chick-fil-A vibe. I don't think I would recommend catering from both unless you just, I guess, want both. But anyway, this will be under $1,000. You go to a community event center. Now, I don't know about you, but my community event center, where I grew up, I don't think I'd want to host a wedding at my community event center. It's just grimy. I mean, it's functional, but it's not beautiful for a wedding day. You know, like there might be space there, but I don't know that I would want to host my wedding there. But anyway, you go to a community event center. This is under $300 usually. Okay, maybe. You get paper plates and plasticware. Okay, you could do that. Under $200. Use Spotify Premium. That is $10 a month. Okay, and you get a cake from Costco. That is under $100. Your most expensive item will be liquor, and will most likely cost you somewhere around $1,800. There, under $5,000. All right, so if you want to get married in an ugly community center, get, Chick-fil-A catered, with nothing wrong with Chick-fil-A. Also, they don't include a guest count at all in this, so I don't really know where they're getting these numbers, but this person seems to think you can plan a wedding for under $5,000. And the truth is, you could totally actually plan this probably for under $5,000. But this to me, this sounds more like a 7-year-old birthday party, or it sounds more like a Sweet 16 birthday party, where you rent a community center, you have plastic forks and plates, you have Chick-fil-A catered, you use Spotify Premium for music. You're probably not bringing liquor to a Sweet 16 party, so maybe not that part. Anyway, not to get sidetracked, but just sharing a comment here that people make. You can totally do that. And if that's your budget, by the way, if you only have $5,000, you can definitely make this, you can try to make this work, and it totally can. So I'm sharing these comments so that you can see this, hopefully be inspired, and maybe take it or leave it. All right, next comment. We doing as much as possible ourselves with 170 people and have DJ and spending $7,000. So this is actually pretty impressive. I mean, 170 people, that's a lot of people. That's a pretty good average amount of people. And they said they're spending only $7,000 on their wedding, which is pretty great. So I want to know more about this. How are you doing this? So I responded, that's awesome. What's your full vendor breakdown and cost for catering, florals, photo, video, bar, etc.? This can really help some couples. They responded, $750 to rent reception hall, $17 a plate for food. We're having ceremony at his farm, $1,600 for photos for 6 hours, bought dress for $800, rent his jacket for $100, DJs $1,000. So that's pretty good. So $17 a plate is a pretty great price. So that was 170 times 17 is 2,890. So let's just say $3,000. So I mean, that's pretty good. So catering was $3,000, everything else $4,000. They're doing an open bar. So, take it or leave it. That's pretty good. I mean, $750 for a reception hall is pretty great. But again, we don't have pictures here. We don't have videos, so we can't show you what it looks like. But on paper, this is what people are doing, apparently. Making her own florals, by the way, at Hobby Lobby. So I hope you're getting the picture. Sometimes you have to do a lot of effort in order for it to be cheaper, but it still can work out. Okay, another comment. We did it under $5,000 for 40 people. Again, makes sense. Take 40 people, add 2 zeros to it, $4,000. They said they did it for under $5,000, so this adds up. Imagine taking this next comment. Imagine taking 150 people out to dinner. How much would it cost? And that's just food and drinks. That's a great visual. I love this. Yes. Imagine taking 150 people out to dinner, and a pretty nice dinner, right? And how much would that cost? Like, just think about that. Or hosting. I mean, generally, you got to book a venue where you can host 150 people and then feed them all. Like, that's basic cost, okay? All right, another comment here on budget weddings. The max for this should be $8,000 to $10,000. All right, so again, we're talking about doing weddings for under $10,000. This person just makes a blank statement. The max for this should be $8,000 to $10,000. So I was like, hey, tell us, how did you come to this conclusion? This person says, the most expensive thing outside of your venue, which shouldn't be more than $5,000. So I got to stop here. this person thinks that the most, you know, the most expensive thing might be your venue, and you should not spend more than $5,000. I will stop and say, here on this page, the Wedding Venues official YouTube page, we have cinematic venue tours of venues around Central Alabama right now. Amazing venues. And we have some micro wedding venues that are smaller, that start around $2,000 for a day. And we have venues that can go really up to $20,000 that includes overnight stay. So you're looking at $2,000 to $20,000 that venues are charging in Central Alabama. People have opinions on that. You know, you might say, oh, $2,000, that's very affordable. Very true. Some people might say $20,000, but you get 2 nights to stay there. It's also very affordable. But some people say that's too expensive. But maybe that just means it's too expensive for you, right? Okay, so I think their opinion of the venue shouldn't be over $5,000. I know plenty of very modest venues that are $7,000, $8,000, $9,000 to rent out for the day, or maybe includes one night before, the rehearsal night before, or something like that. So I think the realistic expectation, even for a modest venue, not even the top notch, not even like the most luxury style venues, you should expect to pay more than $5,000 for a venue. Now you can find a venue for less than $5,000, but it's very hard. It's very difficult. Okay, so booking a venue for less than $5,000 is going to be difficult. Not impossible. They exist. But the reasons why you would get it for less than $5,000, if they're brand new, you might could get a good deal because they're brand new. If you do it on a weekday, Monday through Thursday, that could be a great deal. Even on some Friday or Sundays, but usually those are pretty booked up as well. And maybe the venue just doesn't hold that many people, so you could get it at a cheaper rate. But for the most part, like a venue with all the amenities, all the decor, and looks beautiful for photos, all the things, it's going to cost more than $5,000. It really is, realistically. All right, so moving on. So the most expensive thing outside of your venue should be your photographer. All right, this is their opinion. If you're doing DIY, cheap wedding, then you're not going to be paying for a huge caterer when you can do it yourself and serve buffet style. So I guess they're implying that you should cook your own food for your own wedding and just serve it. This person says, I served 150 guests for $265 total. This person served 150 guests for $265 total by ordering the food wholesale and making it myself. Now, this is interesting. I want to interview this person, and I want to know how they did this. And one is the food, was it even safe to eat? Does it taste good? Like, what kind of food are we talking about here? Wow, that's incredible that they did that. Moving on, some more comments. Okay, 50-person wedding, just shy of $10,000 for everything. That's great. There's no context here. We don't know anything else here. Someone says, we're going to do a potluck in the backyard with only the closest friends. It's good to have a small circle. And that's very true. I think it's very important that we're seeing this trend of 50 people, 70 people, small, close friends. I think if you do a small, close community, small circle, you can definitely host a wedding for under $10,000 and it not be stressful. Another comment, planning our backyard wedding and finding out that it's really not that much cheaper. This is so true. This is so true. Backyard weddings, sometimes, again, we've talked about it. You got to rent out the tents. You got maybe rent out some more portable restrooms. Maybe rent out some generators. Maybe rent out some uplighting or some string lights out there, or a dance floor, or the open bar, or decor, just chairs, tables, all the things. And your rental fees add up to be $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, where you could have booked a venue for $5,000, $6,000, $7,000. But backyard weddings are beautiful, and we do have a video on backyard weddings. Check it out. All right, another comment. Most don't understand when planning a wedding that you're paying professionals to do a professional custom job at a remote or satellite location in most cases. DIY enthusiasts also don't understand that when couples started doing it themselves, they raised prices for everyone across the board, even for the professionals, because the companies that make the materials started raising prices. I don't know the truth. I don't know the validity of this comment. I don't know validity of this stat, but I know for me personally, as a DJ and videographer, since people started DIYing and playing music off of their iPhone, I didn't just automatically raise my prices. I just kept doing what I was doing, and if people use their phone to play music for their weddings, I don't know. So I don't know about that last part. I do think that first part is pretty good, because you are paying professionals to do a custom job, to do a great job at your location. That is true, but other stuff, I don't know. Okay, another comment. I spent $10,000 in Metro Detroit in 2023 for about 70 people. Only DIY was the decor. It is doable. Just takes finding the right vendors and choosing your priorities. Very true. This included a catered barbecue buffet and open bar. We were at an old church renovated to a venue and was smaller and just one room. I'm sure others would be put off by that, but it worked for us. I like this comment. There's a lot of context here. We know where you are. You're in Detroit. It's 2023, so it's fairly recent, within 3 or 4 years. 70 people, small wedding. Again, this is less than 100 people. That's a small wedding, okay? 70 people. Now, if you see 70 people in a room, I mean, it feels lively. It's definitely not super small. Can't fit 70 people in a living room, right? But again, this person spent $10,000 for 70 people in maybe not an ideal venue situation. It's a renovated church, one big room. Might not have worked for everyone. Catered barbecue. Love some barbecue. Okay, I love that comment. Very helpful. Another comment, spend a total of $5,000 on my wedding, getting married in 2 weeks. That's great. I asked, what's your guest count and what's your vendor breakdown? They said, total head count, 25 people. Okay, if you're going to brag about spending $5,000 on your wedding, people need to understand that you're only inviting 25 people. Like, there's context to this, right? Okay, total head count, 25 people, venue for ceremony, $0, on the beach, and city did not require a permit. Venue for reception, a local restaurant with a private dining room, $1,800 total. That's a pretty good deal. But again, 25 people. Photographer, $2,000. That's very respectable for a photographer, okay, and then I didn't see the rest, but they did explain some more things. Actually, here it is. Hair and makeup. I have curly hair, so keeping hair natural and styled myself. Makeup was about $200. No coordinator needed. Maid of honor are all event coordinators. Planned myself, and they are my coordinators. Very lucky for this. The officiant was father. Okay, another comment. Mine is $8,000 and found great ways to be cheap with it. Venue is a mansion for $750. Okay, if you find a mansion for $750, that is great. But I want to know, how many people did you invite to your wedding? So, I need to know the guest counts here. So this was actually at the Allendale Mansion, located in Tennessee. And I would just be curious about how many people you can actually fit in a mansion. Because usually, like an old mansion like that, you'd have to host things outside because you can't really host a lot of people inside. Okay, so this person says $7,000 for my out-of-state elopement, including a 10-night stay and one verbo with my 25 guests, my dress, flights, flowers, rentals, catering, photography. Wouldn't change a thing. This is so insightful, though. Wow. And that was great. Again, $7,000 for an out-of-state elopement, 10-night stay, 25 guests, all this stuff. Had a great photographer. That's definitely an option. If you have $10,000 or less to spend on a wedding, this is a great option for you. Someone says, I spent $5,000 flat. My aunt made my dress, $450 to $500 for fabric supplies, DIY, thrifted my decor and flowers for $900. Got a deal promotion on our photographer for $850, which, by the way, $850 for a photographer, definitely a deal. $750 for the cake. That's actually expensive for the cake for what I know, which I don't know much about cakes, but wow, okay. The venue was my parents' church for free. Very good option. And which, by the way, we do have a video about church venues. There's a lot of rules and regulations with church venues that you do need to understand. We have a video on that. Okay. And the rest was the caterer from our favorite family-owned Mexican restaurant for $2,000. I love some good old Mexican food. That's great. $5,000 flat. That's great. In this, I don't see a guest count here. but I'm assuming, yeah, I don't know. I can't assume. But I bet it's less than 100 people, okay? And another comment, I think a lot of these things are optional. We are doing hours for under $10,000 easily. All right, so I responded to that. Okay, tell us some more. Tell us some more. How many people are you having to your wedding, all that? She says 80 people. Venue, family property, obviously a cheat, $0. So yeah, you can get married at your own property. Photographer is $2,000. Again, I mean, slightly on the cheaper side, but definitely doable, respectable. Food, including dessert, was $2,300. Rentals, $400. Dress, $300. Miscellaneous, $1,000. We didn't do a DJ, was totally fine. Got a nice speaker. No wedding coordinator, was totally fine. I think if you're willing to make compromises, you can do it. That's another thing. I think, and that's very true. If you're willing to make compromises, you can totally do it for under $10,000. But you have to realize you have to have a small guest count, and you won't be able to have your average list of vendors. A lot of people are not even including a videographer. There's no one there that's doing an amazing video. No one's having like an incredible video here that I'm seeing. So there's definitely compromises to be made. When you have a smaller guest count and there's not as many logistics, I think you might get away with not having a coordinator. I mean, if you have 25, 30, 40 people in attendance, it's not that big of a deal if things go a little off schedule because you're such a small knit of people. But you really do, it really comes into play once you start getting to 100 people, 120, 150 people. Navigating all that in a smooth way, coordinator is so crucial. But again, I mean, if you're having less than 100 people, maybe 80 people, maybe it's more manageable for the timeline and the flow of stuff, less vendors to take care of, that kind of thing. All right, moving on. Another comment here on when it comes to budgets. I'm almost at 7,000 right now. I believe it. I don't have decor, cake, or flowers added in there yet. My 5,000 wedding turned into 10,000 real fast. That's very true. There's a lot of people that start off with one budget and it almost doubles sometimes. So, but totally, again, we don't know what the guest count is here or any other context. Some more comments. I did my entire wedding myself to save money and still spent about $18,000 roughly. Venue was $5,000. Photographer was $1,600. Cheap photographer. Videographer was $3,000. Respectable number. Catering was Olive Garden, $1,000. Bartender was $1,600. DJ was $500. That's a cheap DJ. Dress attire was $2,500, and this was only my main stuff, not counting cake, dessert, decor, and all the other miscellaneous stuff. It does indeed add up quickly. This person said, my venue is $450, which, by the way, that is cheap for a venue, $450. We are doing tacos for 75 people or less than, we are doing tacos for 75 people for less than $300. My cousin is making a cake. My friend is doing the rest of the dessert table. I'm pulling florals and other items from Temu and Facebook Marketplace. My dress is $250. Someone just simply commented here on our reel that they just said no. They aren't that much. So they were saying that the $10,000 to $60,000 average range, they're just like, no, simply not correct. Some more comments. This is why micro weddings are so popular. That's from Hitching Post Wedding Venue. Very true. And I think that's the point of this video. I think, can you host a wedding for under $10,000? Yes. However, you do realize that this is going to fall under more of a micro wedding. Maybe not quite an elopement, although you could do it. That person shared that they did an elopement for $7,000, but it's going to be a small, intimate micro wedding, and those are beautiful. I mean, those can be really, really beautiful. And it depends on your personality and your expectations and what you want it to be. Another comment, our wedding was almost $5,000. We had a courthouse wedding. Another comment, planned a budget wedding for under $3,000 for 65 people. Another comment, my budget wedding was right under $13,000, so pretty accurate. Another comment, budget wedding shouldn't be any more than $10,000. Any more is not a budget wedding. I paid $3,000 for an entire weekend wedding for a total of 40 people with about 5 months to do all of my DIY and planning on top of finishing my bachelor's degree at the time. congratulations to this individual for finishing their degree while also planning a wedding. That is definitely respectable and applaudable and incredible. Now, the blanket statement that anyone can do a wedding for under $10,000, I think that's false, right? If you do want to invite 150 people, it's going to be almost impossible to do it for less than $10,000. If you want to invite, especially 200, 250, 300 people, you're not going to be able to host that many people and feed that many people for less than $10,000. But in this case, again, I want y'all to notice 40 people. She's inviting 40 people to her wedding. That is not a lot of people. So in that case, that's totally fine to have it less than $10,000. So that is great. She does do a full breakdown of what she spent here. I rented an Airbnb for the wedding and honeymoon, 3 days and 2 nights for $500, and had a second ceremony only for family, the 40 people, at a park for $25 holding fee. A park is a great option, by the way, for a cheap option, and great outdoor photos still at a park. So great option. The food we provided at the park was a wedding gift from a family friend, homemade brisket sandwiches with typical barbecue sides, enough food for anyone with dietary restrictions. We had 2 cakes, one my husband and I made, and another my mother-in-law insisted we have, so she paid for it, total of $50 at a local bakery. My dress was on clearance and a total of $800 after alterations. My wedding photographers were a close friend who did it as a wedding present and a neighbor of another friend who did it for $250. We only wanted 1 hour of raw family photos, but she ended up staying and getting candid shots for us as well as giving us the raw and edited photos. That's amazing that she gave you the raw photos, because most people, you don't want your raw photos, by the way. You think you do, but your photographer is choosing and culling and delivering those photos for you for a reason. I wouldn't even ask for the raw photos. A lot of people don't even give the raw photos or raw footage for video. But anyway, that's another video for another day. I made my own Spotify playlist for free in the song order I wanted over the course of 5.5 hours. No DJ needed. All flowers were handmade from me, which, by the way, maybe we'll do some more videos on DJ stuff, but all flowers were handmade from me and my husband's favorite books for a total of $30, specifically my bouquet and his boutonniere, as well as book confetti to throw instead of rice. I did my own makeup and had my bridal party do my hair, so $0 on hair and makeup. I made my own headpiece by adding onto a crown I received as a present from a close friend years ago. $25 in Hobby Lobby crafting materials. About $200 for tux rental for my husband, approximately $800 in thrifted decor and wedding gifts, antique glasses for each person invited, and finally about $150 for the marriage license and copies needed for a name change. Okay, there you go. But again, 40 people. 40 people. All right, another comment on this budget video. And this is why micro weddings are so popular in this economy. Mine was $3,500 total, and the venue, y'all don't need to do all that. Okay, another comment. We've booked venue, catering, photographer, and my dress, and we're already at $11,000. That's a reality for many people. Another comment, weddings have become performative. Let's focus more on each other and not what we want others to think. I think there's a lot of truth in that, right? Have weddings become a little performative? Have they become a little bit more competition between your friends and family of what your sibling did and what your friend did? Maybe, but maybe not, The people that do spend a lot of money and go elaborate, maybe it's their personality. I personally, I'm more of an extroverted person. So I knew I wanted a lot of people at my wedding because I thrive off that energy and a lot of people. And I love that, Where my wife, she thrives more in the intimate moments and more one-on-ones. And she's more of an introvert. She likes, a lot of alone time to read and think and do all that, which that's needed for everyone. But I thrive off of seeing people, being with people, being extroverted. So for me, I wanted a lot of people, and it wasn't necessarily to put on a show or perform. That was going to make me happy to have a lot of people around for my wedding day, so I wanted to do it. But yeah, I think there's a lot of truth to that. You shouldn't worry about what other people are thinking. That's anything in life, right? Weddings or anything else, we should worry about what we actually want to do. But that's hard. It's hard because of social media like this, right? YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, these reels showing you what you can and cannot do, what you should and should not do. Do what you want to do. Do what you want to do. All right. Another comment. We had a backyard wedding and spent $5,000 to $6,000. That's awesome. I have a buddy I have a friend who, their wedding, they invited 80 people, and it was $7,000 for a backyard wedding. So totally doable. Again, under $10,000. Can you do it? Yes, more micro wedding. All right, another comment. We had a backyard wedding for 15 people, and we still spent $10,000. All we purchased was dress, chair rentals, cake, photographer, catering, bartender, suit, flowers. I think that's a reality too. 15 people. Actually, I know of a wedding where they had a lower guest count of 90 people. So they booked a nice venue. I think the venue was around $12,000 or $13,000. Totally respectable, very good. This was in Alabama, by the way, and it was 90 people at a nice venue. I was the DJ there, and their catering was incredible. They had like a 15 or 20 member catering staff that brought out plated dinners to the table, and they served a very nice salad first. And then the next came like either an option of steak, chicken, or fish, and along with other amazing sides. They served that all at once. They served, cocktails and, just all kind of amazing wines, liquor, all kind of great drinks. So even though they had a smaller guest count of less than 100 people, they decided, we want an amazing experience for dinner. We want to take our time. We want to have a full hour to just sit and talk to everyone at our table, maybe say hello to the bride and groom, just have a nice fine dining experience. And their bill added up quickly. I mean, that wedding was nearly $90,000, $100,000 for 90 people. But that's because, again, nice venue, overnight stays for 2 nights, spending a lot of money on the experience itself. So if you want to do that, that's also great. But again, that's not the subject of this video. The video is under $10,000. So again, they had a backyard wedding, only 15 people, and still spent $10,000 because they probably, I don't know the whole details, but maybe they splurged on a really amazing photographer. The photographer might have been $5,000 alone. Catering could have been $3,000 alone. Bartending could have been $1,000 or $2,000 alone. Okay, another comment. It stinks because I want to invite more than 100 people, and it's seemingly impossible to keep those costs low. I need to know someone who will let me use their large piece of property for free. And a lot of truth to that. And even if you do find a property for free, you still, need to work out logistics for power, restrooms, tents, rain plan, all that stuff, even if you do a backyard wedding. I know we've said that a time or two. Just a thought there. Another comment. The venue I work at in downtown Austin, 100 guests, charges on average $8,000, includes 10-hour venue rental, 2 bartenders, day of coordinator, plus 1 support staff. Additional fees could include staging, candle package, corking, outside catering, ghost chair rentals, give or take $2,000 of add-ons, and bar packages can be $1,000 to $5,000 depending on selections. So yeah, I mean, that's true. Venues alone can still cost $10,000. And but these venues are worth it. They come with a lot of things. Some of them, it's a full 10, 8, 10, 12 hour day access. Some of them come with bartenders. Some of them come with a coordinator and, a whole support staff, and they come with their chairs and tables and all the things with it. So when you're booking a venue at $10,000, it's not just a blank slate like you might get at another venue. Some of these venues, usually at the $10,000 mark or more, they have a great staff that's there, a manager that's there coordinating all these things. Doesn't take in place of your actual planner or coordinator, but they have a great staff there. Everything's gonna be super clean. The flips are gonna be nice and easy from ceremony to reception. They usually have lots of great options for transportation. They're very professional. So again, there's a whole other level of venues that are $8,000, $9,000, $10,000 and up that actually offer a lot more than you might think. All right, another comment. I spent $10,000 on a DIY with 15 people in Washington. There you go, y'all. All right, another comment. In 2019, my backyard wedding was $2,000, and I wish I would have got a photographer and a videographer. We had a family member. This is so true, y'all. So many regrets. This is the second time someone, just in this comment thread alone, said we regretted something with the photographer. And this says videographer as well. We wish we would have had photos and video. Now those things will last forever. Your photos and your videos will last long after the day. You know, you want to be able to look back on the day and be like, oh, wow, this is amazing. You know, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, you want to look back on those and be like, I love this moment. So you'll never regret having a good photographer and videographer. I 100% agree. All right, another comment. We should be under $10,000 for our 110 people wedding. Weekday, a few vendors were running Black Friday deals, smaller invite suite. Smaller invite to save on postage and so much DIYing. So that's awesome. I asked, can you please share your vendor list and break down costs with us? She says, I'm in Arkansas, so I just joined a local bridal Facebook group and kept my eyes peeled for deals and watched when vendors would comment on various ISO posts. But a Monday wedding cut the venue cost by a ton. I think that's a great tip. So if you want to cut your venue cost, try to book a Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday at your venue. Not ideal for people that are guests that are working during the week, but if you want to have it more affordable, you can definitely, that's a great option. So yeah, that's great. That's awesome. So $10,000 for hosting 110 people. All right, another comment. Our industry does a good job alienating people, and many of us are actually the alienated ones. Very philosophical there. If anyone wants to interpret that comment, our industry does a good job alienating people, and many of us are actually the alienated ones. Tell us, what does this mean? This is from Wedding Wizard KC. I guess that's Kansas City. What does that mean? Our industry does a good job alienating people. Does that mean that we're like making up numbers and we're saying you have to spend $35,000 in order to have a great wedding? We're not saying that. You know, you can definitely have a cheap wedding, have a great, meaningful wedding. But someone in the comments, please let me know what that comment means. Another comment, I had a $5,000 budget, found a venue for $1,250 and $1,250, and they suggested I have no reception if I wanted to stay in budget. There you go. Another comment, guest count is the factor. Bingo. Guest count is definitely the factor. All right, my good friend Matt Powell commented. He said, we had a backyard wedding catered by our family friends who owned a KFC, good old Kentucky Fried Chicken, and we wouldn't change it for the world. We're definitely not the normal couple though, and no, that wouldn't be the ideal for most couples. Good old Colonel Sanders. So yeah, congrats Matt and Emily Powell, y'all. Definitely they had a backyard wedding. I assumed it didn't rain on y'all's wedding day. Y'all had it cheap, but it meant a lot. Probably had small guest count, and they were able to do it for under $10,000. That was many years ago, but still rings true today. You can have some KFC, Chipotle, Chick-fil-A, whatever it is, good old chicken, and just hang out with your friends. Still getting married, still having a good time. Another comment, spent around $7,000 for 58 guests, ceremony, Little White Chapel in Vegas. Had a 1,500 square foot hotel room for everyone to come over and hang out. Reception, we rented out an after hours club. Photography, content, our wonderful friends. So I guess that was for free. Hair and makeup, our wonderful friends. Guess that was for free. Dresses, corset was Black Friday sale, and skirt was thrifted. Second dress was thrifted, etc. Okay, very nice. $7,000, but again, 58 guests. Low guest count is key. It's key. Another comment. Again, guest count changes everything. Like think about just going out to dinner on a Friday night and getting a meal and 2 glasses of wine served to you. You're looking at $50 to $100, you know, just for you. Multiply that by 250 guests. That's $12,500 to up to $25,000. Now, room rental, furniture, paying servers, bartenders, etc. And this all depends on where you live. New England area is insanely expensive for weddings, but income and living is also more. So good thoughts there. Guest count changes everything. Another comment, a non-bank breaking wedding can be done by lowering your expectations, asking friends and family, exchanging services, and literally being patient. Having a community can really help keep from paying an arm and a leg. That phrase, an arm and a leg, okay, if you're a couple wanting to book vendors, especially if you're posting on Facebook groups, please stop saying that you're looking for a vendor that doesn't cost an arm and a leg. That means nothing. We hear that phrase a lot. Or even, hey, we're looking for a reasonably priced vendor, a reasonably priced photographer. What does that mean though? What is reasonable to you? We're looking for a budget-friendly vendor. What does that mean though? What does that mean? Especially, but yeah, paying an arm and a leg. Like, no one considers what they're doing from the vendor perspective costing an arm and a leg. They're just charging what they know they're worth that they're doing. So I would just politely recommend that everyone stop using the term an arm and a leg so that you can better get to what you're looking for. If you're looking for a $500 DJ, just say I'm looking for a $500 DJ. Don't say I don't want to spend an arm and a leg. If you're looking for a $1,000 photographer, just say that, just so that the vendor and everyone else can get to you quicker and you can book that ideal client faster. Okay, I've ended that tangent. Not getting caught up in the money traps of the wedding industry and realizing that important and impactful as an event which expresses your story and commitment, not the look or wasteful traditions of the past 30 years. Okay, that sentence sounds very strong and convincing, convicting even, but that's true. We don't want to be caught up in money traps of the wedding industry. I'm curious to know, let us know in the comments, what are the money traps of the wedding industry? I'm genuinely curious. They're saying, there's a lot of people, there's a lot of money traps out there. What are the money traps? I would love to know. I work in the wedding industry. I want to know, what are these money traps that people are doing? Are they like mouse traps that are out there and they put them under, put them under in the pantry or in the couch or whatever, and you just wait for the mouse to come by and pow! What are these money traps that people are thinking are out there in the wedding industry? I would love to know. Let me know in the comments. Anyway, okay. Another comment. Y'all are delusional. My wedding is in 2 months and it's $15,000 and I got a true wedding venue for $5,200. It sounds very, very accurate. The problem is y'all want a budget, quote unquote, budget wedding, but want your wedding on a Saturday or Friday or want 200 people. A true budget wedding is on a Saturday with 65 guests, an up and coming photographer that only charges $1,400 for 2 photographers, an engagement shoot, all decorations, setup, takedown, etc., included with the venue, and so on. Spot on. I think people who are commenting they have been delusional in this comment thread, thinking that you can have host a wedding for less than $10,000 while still having an amazing, beautiful venue, standard venue that's out there with a 200 people guest count. Like, it's just unrealistic. Like, you can't have it all. Like, you know what I'm saying? You can't expect to have all your regular vendors and not spend more than $10,000 total. Like, it's going to happen. And again, the average wedding cost is around $35,000 right now, just nationwide. That's the average. Again, it ranges from $10,000 to $60,000 and beyond, but $10,000 to $60,000 is the range, big, broad range. But again, you got to have these expectations. So I appreciate this comment. Some more comments. Mine is only maybe $2,500. Free church and venue is $500. And I guess they mean like free church for the ceremony, and then the reception venue is $500. Food is only $15 a person and only 30 people. Again, they're hosting it for $2,500, but they're only 30 people. So it's more doable, right? It's not a church, and then the venue that they go off for reception is $500. Very attainable. So take that. That's some inspiration for you. Okay, I'm paying $11,400 for my son's wedding for venue, food, cake, drinks, DJ, invitations, tables, chairs, linen, but not the person marrying them, flowers and photos, but her friend is a photographer, so she is doing them for her as a gift. 60 people. Wow, that's a great fit. If you have a friend doing photos for you for your wedding for free, that's a great friend. And I pray those photos come out great and that you have no drama and no issue. But that is awesome. Again, 60 people. They had 60 people and they're paying $11,400. So it's just hard. It's difficult to stay under $10,000 here. Another comment. My wedding is probably going to total at around $12,000. I didn't even want to spend that much, but we got a Verbo for 3 nights on the lake that sleeps 36 for $7,000. So that was the majority of it. Photographer was $2,000, DIYing the rest and making all the food ourselves. Awesome. Okay, moving over to the Instagram world. Those were all on TikTok. Here's some stuff on Instagram. I hope y'all are enjoying this video. Thank y'all for being here. Maybe this is just hopefully inspiring many of you that you guys can afford a wedding. It's just about the sacrifices and the priorities. Okay, so more comments on Instagram, or starting here on Instagram. I'm gonna start with these two that I decided to pin because they were great comments here. One comment, the people commenting here saying their budget is under $5,000. Please be honest. Don't claim your wedding is only a few $1,000s and then leave out the finite details of no caterer, no DJ, no videographer, no florals, or the fact that their guest count is under 50 people and they're cooking all the food themselves. Let's be honest, this video is for people who are actually hosting a wedding with more than 100 people that includes select vendors and decor. Spot on here. Love this comment. Another helpful comment. Everyone's saying that they're doing weddings for under this and bragging about it. Good for you, but when you have a small guest list and no vendors, you're not really the wedding being taken into the statistics here. So yeah, while you're getting married, and I'm sure it will be lovely, just realize you're not a traditional wedding with vendors that people are talking about when these numbers are put out. That is also very true. A lot of the stuff that the Knot's talking about, that $17,000 to $55,000 range that we shared at the beginning of this video, those averages are mainly for people with average guest count of 150 guests or 200 guests, you know, something along those lines. We're not talking about micro weddings. We're not talking about people less than 100 people. But again, this video, how can we afford a wedding? How can we afford to host a wedding for less than $10,000? The number one thing I think is your guest list. I hope y'all are realizing this as we read these comments. Okay, more comments here on Instagram. I'm doing a $2,000 wedding this year, all budget friendly and DIY. So I said, what all vendors are you having and what's the guest count? We got lucky and found a very affordable venue that allows outside food and alcohol, and we're doing a stock the bar party, wholesale flowers, and lots of things, secondhand DIY, signs, digital invites, and save the dates. 50 guests, there it comes, 50 guests, and no DJ, food caterers, or bartenders. So again, they're doing a $2,000 wedding, very budget friendly, very DIY. But again, their guest count is less than 100 people. It's 50 guests, you know, it's half of the 100. Okay, important to note, just guest count again. Some more comments. Don't come on here trying to brag about your $2,000 wedding when you had it at the local park and only 10 people showed up. Very true. Okay, another comment. This seems extremely accurate, but you can slash those cake and floral prices for sure. Another comment, 52 people for $8,900 in Kansas in 2026. Again, 52 people, right? Less than 100 people. I had 85 people for $6,500 in Massachusetts in 2024. Another comment, under $5,000. Food and professional photographer were our priorities, and priorities was having no debt. Definitely suggest no debt. Less than 30 people, including us. Now listen, if me and my wife only invited our close family, we would still be over 30 people. I mean, for real, we have, you know, a lot of siblings, aunts, uncles, cousins. We would have been over 30 people for sure, just for family. Okay, would have loved to have more people, but they don't pay our bills. Very, very good point. Okay. Okay, another comment. Our all-inclusive package is $21,999 for up to 100 guests. Additional guests can be added, and we are one of the most cost-effective venues in South and Southern California. Wow. All right, another comment. You can 100% spend less than $7,000 on a wedding. I know this because I only spent $4,500, and it was as close to perfect as I could get it. That doesn't mean I didn't go without, but if you plan it right, you can do it. Okay, very true. Another comment. What my fiance and I are doing is in my parents' backyard. Less than 70 people, thrifted as much as we could with the decor. Even got my wedding dress thrifted. One photographer, all under $3,000. Don't need a crazy wedding ceremony. Granted, we only wanted very selective people there. Again, short, small guest list. Elope, cheapest way. Don't have big weddings. Don't go into debt for a party. Enjoy your honeymoon and go home. I think that's true. Like, don't go in debt for a wedding, you know? I think that's true. Whether you spend $10,000 or $100,000, just, you know, find ways to do it. And people do have means to pay for that, you know, oftentimes. Another comment. No, you can do this for under $6,000. Use your church as they are usually free. Don't rent a fancy venue. Look into unconventional places like a lodge or meeting area or outdoor area. Go unconventional for cake. Do cheesecakes or a small cake and cupcakes for everyone else. Don't invite the whole town to the reception, just close friends and family. Invite the town to the wedding only. Borrow silk flowers, buy off Facebook Marketplace or from Temu. Honestly, they're pretty good quality for being used for one day. Get a friend to video, do a charcuterie buffet. No reason to do a whole meal, no reason to do alcohol. That's pretty extreme opinion. So yeah, they did it for $6,000. I mean, I think that if people want to spend the money, they can. If they want to do this, if they prioritize keeping their money and not having a big celebration, then maybe they could do this option. All right, another comment. We're doing a pretty DIY style wedding, just paying for food and drink really for about 200 people, and our budget is $20,000. Now again, this goes back to the whatever your guest count is, add 2 zeros to it. 200 people, add 2 zeros, $20,000 budget. And honestly, this comment is proving that point again and again and again. Now that's a generalized rule, doesn't work every time, but generally speaking, 200 people, gonna be around $20,000. Okay, another comment here on this budget video. It makes me irate that you slap weddings on things and the price triples. Daughter is getting married May 2026. We're trying to stick to a $10,000 budget using professional day of coordinator, photographer, DJ, ordering food, but not traditional catering, doing all decor ourselves, still hard to stay at $10,000. Venue was $3,500. Now, what I want to know about this individual is, what is the guest count? You know, what's the guest count? Because if you're trying to invite over 100 people, it's definitely going to be challenging to stay under or at that $10,000 budget. So I would suggest to this person, for one, just because it's a wedding doesn't mean that vendors are tripling their prices. That's false. That's just false. Secondly, yes, that's great that she's sticking with a professional coordinator, photographer, and DJ. That is awesome. I would just say cut your guest list down. And a venue for $3,500 is very affordable venue. So sorry, you know, it makes her irate here, but I pray that she can, you know, have a great wedding here in 2026 in May with the $10,000 budget. But I think the only way you can do that is by inviting less than 100 people. That's my opinion, and that's what a lot of people are saying here on the comments. Okay, another comment. Mine was about $10,000 planned for 70 people, 50 attended, although I could have done it for probably more than like $5,000 if I was less picky. $1,400, $1,500 venue, $1,000 tent, chair and table rental. Mother-in-law made cake, $2,000 for photos for 4 hours, $600 for DJ, although didn't really need one since nobody danced much. No alcohol, $800 for dress, $1,500 for food, $500 for a hired cook, $500 for decor and favors, flowers, $0 since I picked them myself and also have my mother-in-law pick some of hers. Great. Now I would say you still need a DJ. Even if people don't dance, it's still nice to have a DJ that can control the moments and the sound for ceremony, make sure the mics are good, music is good, and still sets the atmosphere. Even if no one dances, still important to have a DJ, even a $600 DJ, if you can't afford, you know, something higher because you don't need something. If you don't prioritize dancing, yeah, you don't need that. Okay, another comment. Yep, and the only way to get lower is to simply not have those things. Very true. Say bare bones and you hire just an officiant for legal paperwork and maybe a nice outfit, get a family member to host, make all decor, no flowers, or get them from gardens, have family take photos, have friends, family play music on a speaker. There's just so many categories that once you start hiring services, it just simply adds up to $15,000, even if only putting $1,000 in each. Very true. Very, very true. All right, guys. Well, that is mainly all of the comments that I wanted to share today. I hope this video has been just beneficial with you. I mean, just sitting here, my cat right here in my lap. I don't think my cat is really in the frame of this video. I think if I raise my knee up here, you can kind of see. But she's just been napping in my lap this whole time. Guys, thank y'all for sticking around. Thank you for following along Wedding Venue's official YouTube channel. Let me know in the comments what future videos do you guys want us to make. I'm going to be talking with other photographers, planners, venue owners. We want to help you guys. If you're a couple, we do have a venue about the things that you should do right when you get engaged. So definitely check that video out. We have the whole long video about how to actually make a wedding budget. There's a lot of budgeting tools out there. I have a Google Sheets template that you can check out on that budgeting video and that description. Definitely check out the Knot because they have great resources. And yeah, guys, listen, I think the bottom line is if you're planning a wedding, if you only have $10,000 or less, I hope by the end of this, you know that you're just gonna have to make some sacrifices by cutting down your guest list. I think that's a big thing. And cutting down your vendor list, cutting down your expectations. There's no way to book an incredible, beautiful, big venue and invite 200 people and still expect to pay less than $10,000. It's just not feasible. It's just not practical. It's not that the wedding industry is out to get you. It's not that they're price gouging. It's not that they're just, raising prices, tripling prices for no reason. We're here to help you. And as a wedding vendor, I hope that it's the best day ever for you. That I DJ and video. So as a DJ, I love a great party. I love a good time with a lot of people. There's a lot of energy in the room. I love music and I love video. I love telling the story of someone's wedding day intentionally through that. So anyway, guys, good luck in your planning. You can do it. Even if you have $10,000, you can totally do it. Totally do it. So God bless you guys. I'll see you on the next video.